You're listening to
Wrestling to the Max.
Alert. Clear all channels.
This is an exclusive.
How you like that?
And your host, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Vieser.
Well, they certainly didn't want none.
They did not want none.
Nope. After this Raw, after WrestleMania 32, and we're going to talk about it on this Wrestling the Max Extra number 29. And, of course, we are the Every Wrestling Fan Podcast, and we are brought to you by the W2M Network and in partnership with 411mania.com and Last Word on Sports.com. And sadly, guys, this is the last show of this marvelous weekend.
Yeah, that's a big bummer because we've had a blast. This has been a weekend to remember. It's been a great time. It happened in our backyard, Paul, and man, it's been nice. It's been nice to be able to come home after these shows and not have to run to a hotel, but at the same time, it's been a pleasure to be able to see everybody from around this country that we get a chance to talk to on a normal basis, and we get a chance to maybe see them and also just get to enjoy everything that encompasses WrestleMania in our backyard. So, I mean, this has been something where I've never done it before. I've never experienced a WrestleMania weekend. So I am a rookie. You guys are veterans. Y'all been there. Y'all done that. So, I mean, I'm going to ask the question now. And Paul, I mean, you've done this plenty of times. How was this weekend? I mean, compared to maybe some of your other ones?
So this was number 3 for me. I did 25, very light. 25 did Access on and then we did Mania, and that's it. We went home. 28 we did Dragon Gate USA. We did Access again. We did WrestleMania after, and then we did WrestleMania, or the Raw after WrestleMania and WrestleMania, of course. And then this is the most I've ever done. 7 shows in 4 days.
Wow.
Like me and Ben were saying in the car on the way home, like this is the first time we've gotten back to our neck of the woods before 1 o'clock. So as great as this weekend has been, I've been very tired.
yeah, and I don't blame you,
But I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world. This is probably one of the best weekends I've ever had in my entire lifetime. It was amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
For me as well. I mean, it has been a fun time. I mean, like I said, I've never done this before. Getting a chance to sit in AT&T Stadium with 100,000 plus, it's a situation where you never get that again. Probably you may if you get lucky enough. I'm sure when the LA Rams have their brand new stadium, that'll be probably the next record. I guarantee you. So unless I go to that WrestleMania, this will be something that's going to stay with me forever. And just to see that sea of people. And, of course, the Monday Night Raw after, like we're going to talk about, that was a fun experience, too, because I've been to the American Airlines Center plenty of times. Me and you, Paul, have been there together. I've been together with other friends of mine, just sitting there in the crowd. It's fun, but nowhere near the intensity the crowd gives you the night after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
New experience completely for me. I'll be honest with you. So, lots of energy. I mean, Sean, yourself, I mean, you've done WrestleMania weekends before. I mean, where is this in your book?
I mean, on 28, I only did WrestleMania itself because I moved there a week prior, and then the Raw after WrestleMania. And I would say that overall the crowd for that Raw after WrestleMania was probably a little bit better because it was when Brock came back, and it was kind of crazy. It was the thing with the yes chant, all that, So I think from a historical perspective, the one from 28 was probably better. But it's just this whole thing. This is the first time I got to actually do stuff out. Get the new takeover. I had the tickets for the other things, but I didn't get to because of other things that happened during this time. But I mean, it was my plan to do to go to both Evolve shows in the Shimmer and all that stuff, and it's still cool. It's still cool to be able to come down here, go see you guys again. Hopefully it can become a permanent thing eventually. But hey, next year it's in my neck of the woods, and you know that's where I met Paul the first time.
Right.
So
That's amazing.
I mean, it would be awesome to have you come, Gary.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can experience a little bit of
Definitely.
a little bit of Florida.
I love it. Yeah, my sister resides down there right now as well, so don't get down there enough. But you know, maybe that'll be something we'll do. And you know, once again, we're doing this live in Dallas, Texas. All three of us in the same room, and that's not usual. I would love to do next WrestleMania same way. Even if it's in a hotel room, it would be a blast for all three of us, and hopefully more people that can join. That way we can just have a great time like we've had these, you know, past weekend. It's been a blast just sitting in front of you guys, not just on the headset.
Right.
You know, so anyway. But, you know, once again, we are going to talk Monday Night Raw. That's what our, you know, objective here. If you did not hear our WrestleMania show, we did a WrestleMania recap right after WrestleMania. So go check that out. Go find that. If you are a subscriber on the W2M network, it's easy. Just go back an episode. If you're not, sign up. Be a subscriber to that W2M network. You'll get that episode right away. You can hear everything we had to talk about. We did NXT TakeOver as well. Yeah. You get a little bit more of what Paul's talking about with his shows that he went to with the ROH and, of course, the Evolve shows. So all these episodes are just for you. They give you a little insight on the entire experience over WrestleMania weekend. Don't miss any of them. Go check them all out. And I'm hoping, you know, you really do take the opportunity to go and check out some of the other shows on the W2M network because they're great. A lot of great insights. So we don't want to miss, you know, we don't want you to miss anything. But before we get into this whole Raw, I want to mention one more thing before we jump off. I want to thank a few people. I want to thank everybody that has listened to our shows, listened and, you know, gave us, you know, some feedback. You guys have been awesome. You
watched the video version.
Definitely, yeah. You're definitely right on cue on that, Sean, because it's really cool to not only do the audio, but when you have visuals and people getting a chance to see them, asking questions through the video chat, you know, and doing things like that, it makes the show more fun. So we definitely appreciate everybody listening. I also want to give a special shout out to a good friend of Paul's here, Ben. He's been an awesome guy. Really helped us out this weekend. You know, we wanted to hang out together, and he was able to help us all get together and do that. So I want to give a special shout out to him. He's an amazing guy. And so, you know, and basically, you know, this has been so much fun, and you know, I want to thank everybody that, you know, supported us through this whole thing.
Thanks to Chris for doing the video for the first one.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Christopher Bernard, great guy as well. I love that guy. So I mean, we've got so many great people that we're affiliated with, surround us, friends. It's amazing. So and this is great. So, but you know, it's, you know, one of those things where I'm just glad we had those experiences together. It's been a lot of fun. Well, guys, let's go ahead and do it. Let's talk some Monday Night Raw, and this is especially an interesting one because lots of things that were surprises were there, and surprises we expected were not. We'll be back with Raw.
Give me a sec here.
Yeah. It's hard to video and produce all at the same time.
WWE Monday Night Raw.
So, anyway.
Alright, well, Raw was live, obviously, from Dallas, Texas, and the American Airlines Center. All three of us were there live, so we'll give you the perspective of being live. And the show started off with Vince standing on the stage, gloating about basically him still being in power and not a whole lot changing, it seemed like. Then Shane did not take... He did say that he had a moment where he felt for his son and Shane because of the whole going off the top of the cell. And then Shane came out, wanted to thank the fans, wanted to... got some adulation from those fans. And then all of a sudden Vince didn't want to be upstaged. So then he told Shane to come back, and the fans kind of beat him to it as the crowd was chanting, let him run it, and then he kind of just said, okay, let me just see what you got. Kind of sort of undoing the stipulation that was given the day before, but he did make it a point later in a promo that it was sort of temporary. And he was leaving because it was the expectation that the show would be off the rails. So that set in place everything else, even though we really didn't see Shane a whole lot, which kind of brings in the whole point of it gives you something different because he's not the authority. He's not constantly on the show jibber jabbering, constantly giving you his opinion on something. He showed up in key moments that mattered. So how do you feel about Shane, the general manager, and how long do you think this is going to be a thing? Since, Vince already kind of outlawed the whole thing we might have thought of with the lockbox being involved. He said that's not a thing anymore. Do you think this comes into play again with the whole control of the authority, or do you think this is really just temporary with Shane?
I will say it might be short term, but for now it's very welcome. This is the only really authority thing we got the entire show. You had Shane briefly pop up here and there to make a match, or to his name would get thrown around to let you know that there's some corrections going around because obviously stuff changed during the show, which we'll get into. I really enjoyed this opening promo though. I thought it was very smart not to open with Roman Reigns because Lord knows you don't want to open with that bad taste in your mouth.
Not to mention what it could do for fans that maybe didn't watch WrestleMania and go, "Oh, we're still doing this." Okay.
Right. So I mean, I thought it was everybody's insanely respectful for Shane about what he did last night. People were, the hot crowd you expected all the way through, and I thought this was a great way to start the show.
I totally agree on that, and people had a lot of questions coming out of that whole situation in Mania because it was the Hell in a Cell. Shane killed himself for everybody's amusement.
Yeah.
And then you get no word, no sight, anything from Vince McMahon during WrestleMania. That was what we were all asking ourselves after that Mania. What in the world is going on here? Wouldn't he be out there celebrating at least? Wouldn't he want to say something? No. That never happened, so that led us into Monday Night Raw. We got right away into it, and I'm glad of it. I think it made a lot of sense. It gave us all an option, or an opportunity, to really get a chance to see what Vince was thinking that whole entire time. And, of course, making, Shane come out and making him, kind of basically say thank you to the crowd and he's going to go. It also made people kind of like, oh no, this is sad, this is too quick. And then the reverse of it with Vince kind of giving him the opportunity to run the show. All of it kind of went 1, 2, 3, and it was pretty smooth. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a good transition. I thought it was good for the fans, and especially for the fans who are very casual, who may not think about as much as we think about it. Because sometimes we overanalyze it. We break it down too much, and this was just right there, very simple, and it kind of put into place the entire night. And I think Shane, as a GM, is an interesting thought process, especially after what you see tonight. But at the same point, really, when you think about it, I don't know how much he really is going to be involved going forward because of his own personal life, his own personal business, all that stuff that entails. So I kind of see it winding down, but maybe it's not winding down in a way. Maybe he enforces someone else to take over that position.
Yeah, or somebody for him to speak through when he's not able to be there, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing, it negates everything that they sort of did at WrestleMania, but then again, maybe it needed to. The change needed to happen, because, Triple H and stuff, they're fine, but, the less 1 hour chunks of time we have to dedicate to authority promos, everybody wins. So,
and talking about that, think about this, and Sean, I'm sure you'll agree. That crowd, as hot as they were, and through that entire segment, it made it much better. Mm-hmm. Because think of it. Think of fans in a city that is not so smarky or whatever. They're going to sit on their hands through some of that. They'll be okay, it's Vince, but they're not going to be chanting all the chants that we heard tonight. They're not going to be making a ruckus. Whereas the talent in the ring has to kind of pay attention. Where even Shane had to kind of stop a few times because people were chanting and chanting and chanting. So I think that's kind of cool. It made it entertaining. The fans were making sure they thanked Shane. I think Shane was overwhelmed a little bit by that himself. I think he just felt that passion and emotion from the fans. And so to me, it made it so much more better. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped the show. It made the show better. I would have kind of made that point that not having the authority in there constantly telling something or making it about themselves or trying to figure out how to put the obstacles against someone. Just having a guy, kind of like what William Regal does on NXT, just kind of giving you the matches, giving you what's going to be on tap for the show, and then sometimes even the wrestlers themselves make some of the matches, like we saw later with Miz and Zack Ryder. So, and that's fine. You don't have to have the authority come out and do everything, right? They don't have to do everything on God's green earth. They can be in the background, and it can be about those wrestlers, you know. And speaking about those wrestlers, it didn't take very long for it to be about wrestlers. New Day came out, and we found out that there's a tag team title match going on with New Day against two members of the League of Nations. With it was Barrett and Sheamus. New Day would eventually win the match, and as you'd expect, they retained the titles after losing at WrestleMania. They did have a terrific promo, which I thought was really good from them. Again, they were nailing the promos as they always usually do. And then you get the end where the League of Nations sort of loses a member because the crowd had already beat them to it with the na 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 hey goodbye chant to King Barrett, but Sheamus then proceeded to kick out the weakest link, which he said was King Barrett. So that kind of your first segment that involved a match and everything. In there, a WrestleMania rematch that particularly probably wasn't something people were very fond of seeing. But what did you guys think of all that?
How can you not love New Day? I mean, they were one of the hottest things on this whole entire weekend when it comes to WWE product.
Oh my God, the Bootio shirts were everywhere.
If it wasn't a Nakamura t-shirt I saw, it was a Bootio t-shirt or some sort of New Day t-shirt. You know, it's just, incredible.
It was amazing. And, you know, going at the prospect of, you know, how this, you know, was tonight, it was great as usual. They did their thing. I love the fact that they follow up. Well, you know, that we got our last Bootio. You know, the whole crowd interaction even made it even better.
The circle of life with the last Bootio.
I love it. It's so beautiful. Oh, man, that was one special moment. But, I mean, just looking at it, I mean, once again, I hate to keep saying it, but these guys are amazing by themselves with that crowd interacting, the way that they really prop them up.
And the crowd was really letting them have it during the match, too, at certain points where they didn't like something.
Yeah, they were. And in fact,
Xavier would come in with responses.
Yeah, talking over through the mic on the trombone. Big E was magical too. Like that, the second they enter the ring, he's just swimming in the ring, seemingly soaking up all the chants coming towards him, and like I mean, yeah, made weekend for him almost. You know, like everybody who loves him is here. And
what did Xavier say? Something sucked, and the cartoon sucked.
It was during the Rocksteady chant.
Yes.
And he Rocksteady sucked during the cartoon show too, which got a cheer.
Yeah.
It's great.
It was. And, you know, that was because of a Ninja Turtles chant.
Right? Oh, and then they started the wave.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And then Xavier's like, just let you know we don't like weird shapes. Or something to that effect.
What was it? Did you hear him?
I didn't. That one I don't recall.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. He kind of said it, and it was kind of I don't know, muffled or something. But you really couldn't make out what he said. But yes, in fact, you know, Xavier did have to get on there and say a few things, and it made it better. It did because it was just too funny. But you know, really, I hope this is the finish of this feud. I hope we're getting to a point where we can move on, but I don't know, Paul.
I mean, it certainly looks that way when you look at the post match with the Wyatts coming in, right, seemingly laying waste to the league, and that gets a thank you Wyatts chant, which I'll tell you what I was grateful for because I did not want to see them.
Do you
anymore.
think this means anything for the Wyatts? So they've done this before.
Are they fake? Like the leagues are solidly bad guys. We know they're bad guys. Is this a face turn? Is this us being weird because we want the Wyatts to see like? Bray could actually win a match now. He could win a feud.
What? This is definitely the end of days. I think, and we're not talking about that just yet. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It's kind of weird because, you know, the Wyatt family is supposed to be heels. They're supposed to be, you know, these weird, creepy guys. But on the other hand, so many people are cheering for them. So many people love them. I mean, there's a reason you see those Sea of Lights every event you go to, and they're a part of it. So. I don't know. I really am thrilled to see, you know, them win, but it makes me fearful of any feud they're in, it doesn't matter. They're still going to lose when it comes to the pay-per-view.
I mean, if they lose the League of Nations, then that's truly the bottom of the barrel. You know, nobody likes the league. Nobody no matter where they go, nobody likes them. They're boring.
I mean, they're the League of Booty for a reason.
The League of Booty. Yeah, I mean that's how Larry reports on them for his Raw reports or anything with the WWE. It's the League of Booty.
Gotta love it. But yeah, I mean, you're right. And, you know, the New Day, I think, you know, maybe step away from the Wyatt family, they still have something that's going to be special, but I want to know who that next group is to be facing off against them. This tag division right now is a little bit in flux. They're adding tag teams now, as we'll talk about. They're making a few transitions, I think. We're going to lose some tag teams, I think, or at least one. So that's what's going to be fun about this whole thing. When we start anew and we get a chance to see what direction the New Day is going in, that's the real question.
Yeah, and one of the other things that was very surprising about this show is they really propped up NXT talent on the show here. They debuted Apollo Crews seemingly out of nowhere. Did not even they hyped up the fact that he was going to show up in the next segment, but that's pretty much all you got out of him. And then he just squashed Tyler Breeze. Baron Corbin had a match with Dolph Ziggler after debuting the night before, and he's officially part of the main roster. Vaudevillains will debut on SmackDown. Sasha Banks also squashed Summer Rae here, but you get later on, you get Enzo and Cass debuting eventually. And then you also get some that did not debut that many thought was going to be the ones that were going to be the big debuts. We did not get those. So what do you think about the ones that did appear? Let's get with some of the ones that aren't such high profile. We know Baron Corbin is now part of the main roster after winning the Battle Royal. I do appreciate that he likes to fold his arms just like Andre and match his trophy. And then you get Apollo Crews debuting. And I'll tell you what, I had people behind us, Gary, that are not NXT fans, mainly WWE fans. And the first time they're looking at Apollo Crews and they're going, why the hell is this guy not on this roster before? Because we know what he is, right? He's Brock Lesnar, he's Bobby Lashley, he's way more athletic. And that's going to appeal to a lot of major audience. But there's still many that would say, I don't know if he has more than mid-card potential.
You know, and I thought that whole thing as well, it's kind of interesting because of the fact that, you know, I have seen him and I do know what his talent level can be and the potential of being even better than that. But I also kind of wonder that same thing of, is this guy just a mid-carder? I mean, how close is he going to get to that main event? I think he has the ability and everything to do that. But when WWE usually brings new guys in, they're a little bit weary of throwing them up there to the top of the food chain unless they're a guy that's so established or there's a specific reason they have him going up. And right now, Apollo Crews is not amongst those kind of guys. He's right there in the middle. I think that this is a good move for WWE, and in a way I don't like it. I don't like it for Apollo Crews, and the reason I say that is because the attention to detail is so important sometimes, and I don't know if he's prepared himself enough. And maybe he has, but I don't know. I think his time in NXT was still needed. I think he still needed to grow a little bit more. I think he still has some things to offer when it comes to, you know, growing and learning and under that tree. I just have a lot of fears that this guy's got a lot of talent, but when he gets to the main roster, he's going to make some mistakes, and the next thing you know, he's not going anywhere.
I'm worried about that less for him than I am about Baron. Baron, his promo that he cuts before him was okay. It was nothing special, but it was not the worst we've ever seen him cut. But his match with Dolph did nothing for me. Like, it was very flat. It was very boring. Like, when a beach ball is more over than what's going on in that ring.
Let's be honest. They were paying way more attention to the beach ball.
Yes. The wave was happening.
But the beach ball was like the center of attention during this. And it wasn't just one beach ball. It was about 3 or 4 different beach balls. Okay, so, like, once they lost the crowd, they lost that crowd. There was nothing they were going to do that was going to get them back.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a few spots. Like the end of days on the outside was a nice little spot. Baron throwing Dolph into the crowd was a nice thing. But I mean, it's just you don't care about him. You don't have a reason to care about him. He won the trophy. Big deal. Big deal. He's very boring to me. Apollo, however, popped off the screen. I hope him and Tyler have worked together before. They work very well together. Somebody that Apollo's comfortable with, and you got his highlights pretty much. So that I thought that was a smart thing. And you know, it's like Neville. Even if they don't make it to the top of the card promo-wise, that wrestling ability is going to get them really far. Mm-hmm. And you look at who they have in the mid-card now, guys like Kalisto, guys like a Neville, guys like Apollo Crews. There's some terrific match potential on this mid-card scene that you can really, like, the wrestling might elevate them that far, you know?
Mm-hmm. I totally get your point on that. And sure, they may not cut the best promos, but it is about the wrestling, which concerns me about Corbin so much. And not that he's not talented, not that the guy can't go. I know he's not comfortable with everything yet, and he hasn't reached a level. He's a big guy, and there's a certain style that they have to go by, and with his talent level, he's so limited with what his strengths are and compared to his weaknesses. So I really do have some fear about Baron Corbin. I don't know. I mean, this may be one of those where he's a trivia question. I hope not. I don't want to root against him. I want him to do well. I just got a lot of fear there. You're completely right about Apollo Crews, though. This guy's got so much talent. He's going to move on, and he's going to do fine. Even if he just hovers around in that mid-card, just winning IC titles, winning the U.S. title, he's going to do those kind of things. He's going to prove people wrong to say that he can't do it, and the fact that he's not going to get over. Because I think this guy is going to get over. Weird to say, but I think this guy could get over even faster than an AJ Styles.
I think Apollo is going to be just fine. I think he is going to have Vince's blessing as far as he's going to try to do something with him. You give him more promo time, just like what AJ has been able to show. Mm-hmm. I think that he's only going to improve. He's only going to get better. And you get that in there with that wrestling style that you know from Evolving Dragon Gate and just watching him in NXT. He's going to, as Paul said, pop off the screen. It might take a little bit like Cesaro, but eventually that's gonna help. Mm-hmm. And it's going to build him up, and he's going to be something. I think definitely he has. I think Baron has potential too, because he has that I don't give a shit attitude, and so like that kind of draws people in. He has that mysterious thing to him, and also he's probably got a little bit of different from Roman Reigns, where I think where Baron would just kind of be like, "Hey Baron, we want you to do this." I kind of don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so, people might see him in a different way, and Vince might take that and go, you know what? Maybe we need to do something with Baron. Mm-hmm. I've always when I saw Baron, I said, okay, this is a guy that Vince is going to bring up, like we talked about yesterday, when you got a Braun Strowman and Eric Rowan, some other guys like that in the roster, you can't really say that Baron's not ready. And it's not like he's in here wrestling with chumps. I mean, look at all the guys he has the ability to learn from while he's still learning on that house show circuit in the WWE proper. So,
the one thing that I want to ask you guys if that's a true statement or not. AJ Styles compared to Apollo Crews, I think, in my opinion, Apollo Crews may be able to get over faster.
Apollo is certainly flashier, but he also has youth on his side, so that's helpful. I think AJ has more of the big time aura around him because he's been there. He's been the IWGP champion, he's been TNA World Champion. He's carried companies before.
And he's already getting a main event,
right? And since he's come onto the scene, he's only just radiated confidence. Mm-hmm. I think he's fine. Roman's going to be a large test because he's going to be working crowds that are going to be on his side no matter what, so he could probably kick a baby into Roman's face and he'll still get cheered for, so we'll see how that goes, but I think Apollo will be just fine. He might get over quick because Neville got over quick when they were using him. And he's sort of been here or there since then, and obviously injuries aren't going to help Neville, but certainly Apollo has a great chance, I think, of getting over pretty quick.
I'm not demeaning Apollo Crews at all. I respect him, and I'm not demeaning AJ Styles completely at all. The reason I say that was because it's been a slow build. People that don't know anything about TNA and don't know anything about New Japan, Ring of Honor, these people are watching AJ and trusting Michael Cole, trusting any announcer that talks about AJ Styles and what they have to say about this guy. And the experience they're getting is very short-handed compared to what they would say if they would have saw him on NXT. Now, Apollo Crews, there's plenty of people like we were learning this weekend that don't watch NXT and who have no idea who these guys are. I think that short window is the same for Apollo. And the only reason I brought that up was because of the flashiness, which Apollo's going to get a chance to do a little bit more, I think, at times. But with AJ Styles, just like you said, Paul, in that main event picture, that's going to bump him up. That's really going to get the eyes on him, and I think that's going to get more attention on what he can do. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, AJ, I don't think you have to worry about him at all. I mean, he's gonna be like Kevin Owens. He's gonna go up and down. But they're gonna protect him. I feel like this thing with Jericho was probably just that whole it's still, I think, Vince saying he is a guy that's not my guy. Do I have him win over another one of my guys at WrestleMania? Whatever it is. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day because look where AJ is after the show. We'll address that in a little bit here. But I think what they've done here is interesting. The Vaudevillains are going to be the most interesting thing when you get to SmackDown because they are a total NXT product. Mm-hmm. They work because that crowd understands who they are. They know where they come from. They saw them as Aiden English, the singing guy or whatever, coming in and now being this character with Simon Gotch. Are the fans, the WWE fans who've never seen them, going to adapt to them and think and see them in the same light where the NXT fans can take them seriously? The WWE fans might see them as a total comedy act and they never go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So that's something interesting. What do you guys think, dude? Is it going to be just this comedy tag team, or can they really be something else?
Really, what we've seen in NXT, they weren't based on comedy. They did funny things, but they weren't at times funny. And then when they were more faces, you got more of the humor. But I don't know. That's a great question.
But the NXT fans got that thing about the chivalry thing and all that stuff that I don't know the WWE product fans are going to understand right away.
Exactly. The NXT fans were able to sort of think more about what the Vaudevillains were doing. Because the Vaudevillains are a tough sell. Even they took a while in NXT to get over. Mm-hmm. They're black and white. They work a very old school style. It's not flashy. It's very.
They're coming from the silent film era.
Yeah, it's slow going, and they like pounding on you in slow bursts. And it's. It took them a long time to get there. I don't foresee their chances being very good on the main roster personally. Mm-hmm. Just because they're a tough sell. They're a fun act. Don't get me wrong. They're great. They worked in NXT. They could probably work on the indie circuit. When it comes to main roster WWE stuff, if you're not clear and you have and it's not something that they can immediately relate to, you're gonna have a hard time. And the Vaudevillains, I think, fit that bill.
Yeah. So, I don't think we necessarily have to talk about Enzo and Cass in that aspect because from the moment that we saw them and the way that the crowd interacted with them, I think anybody that watches that goes, holy crap, are these guys? Now, we can. I think we need to look at it and say, okay, Enzo's very, very small. Big Cass is obviously the total opposite of him. There's going to be a lot of people that might say, oh, this is a total DX ripoff, whatever. What makes them special to that audience, you think, that the WWE audience is going to just... Are they going to totally gravitate them just from seeing this on this show?
I think they're very endearing. Enzo is a great guy to get out there and to just to spill out his rhymes, to spill out whatever kind of personality and charisma that he has, because it's been obvious. NXT, it sold very quickly. Mm-hmm. He is the guy on the mic. You've got, a situation where he's kind of like the wrestler / manager in a way. It's kind of weird to say that, but I mean, you got Big Cass as the guy that really does a lot of the legwork at times in the matches, which is great because he's a huge 7-foot guy. So I think overall, fans are going to gravitate because of what Enzo's going to put over and what he's going to do to get them over. I think, it's kind of like what we saw with some other talents. Guys who can talk and guys who can, make their personalities known seem to really catch your attention and grab the hearts of the fans. I think that's what happened in NXT, and I see that happening in the WWE.
Even if they are considered a DX ripoff, it'll still work. People will gravitate towards them because they have that Attitude Era flair to them. And the greatest part about it is that they developed the package so well in NXT that they could work face or heel. If you work face, Enzo gets to make the funny jabs. Kaz gets to be the badass, and he can still cut the mic too and do just fine. Enzo can work the sympathetic babyface in the ring like they did in NXT their whole time there. You tag in Kaz, he gets the hot tag, he comes in, runs wild, beats you, that's it, 1, 2, 3, If you go heel, then you have Enzo as the annoying hype man who hides behind Kaz. Mm-hmm. Perfect. There's no way these guys don't get over. If they don't get over, I'll eat a hat right here on this broadcast.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Wow, we got to pick this hat out. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I look at him, Sean, and I say, Enzo does such a great job of, hype man's a better word than what I say, manager. He really puts them over, and I think that, what you're going to see and what you're going to get when it comes to these new feuds that they're going to get into, people are going to be behind him, I think, immediately.
Yeah, they are. And I think the 7 with the Dudley was perfect because it allowed them to basically accentuate what makes them great. Without seeing them in the ring yet, you get Enzo basically doing the rap. You get Big Cass doing the Billy Gunn part, and it's perfect for them. It's what they do so well, and you got all of that and encompassed, and then you get the crowd buying on every single word because they've watched it in NXT so many times. Mm-hmm. So I think overall, the ones that we did get, they delivered. Now we did not get, and I know people would be like, "Oh my God, why are you talking about these guys?" But we did not get Bayley, we did not get Finn Balor, and we did not get Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows here. And the bad thing is that at least Balor and the Balor Club were not mentioned, and no fan said anything about them. But Bayley, during the Women's Championship big segment, that the fans were very kind of, you could almost say rude at times, interrupting Charlotte to chant about Bayley, and then Bayley doesn't even appear, and then eventually they do chant women's wrestling for the segment and everything and whatever, and they leave Charlotte, and it becomes about Natalya and Charlotte again, which they just did this feud and they're doing it again, but maybe perhaps now taken seriously. I guess it's a bit different. But what do you think overall about the ones that we thought would be the big debuts? We didn't get them. And then that women's championship segment, what did you think of it?
I look at it and I kind of think to myself, is this the Vince McMahon thing where he's angry because the fans have wanted something, or maybe he's like, I'm going to pull a fast one on these guys because they think I'm going to give them this. I'm not. I'm going to give them this. So, that's why I kind of look at it as it could be that situation, or it's just a weird booking thing where they planned out WrestleMania, they planned out this Raw, and fans were completely wrong on what they thought was going to get booked. So, we're just kind of living out the original plan. I don't know. It's weird to me. But I could see them saving Bayley on purpose because you can't have someone just show up. Kind of like we got Enzo and Cass. We knew Enzo and Cass were going to show, right? Mm-hmm. We all talked about this after Mania. Same with Bayley. Well, maybe Bayley's got a big moment coming. And that's okay. I'm okay with it because sometimes you need to save those big moments. But at the same time, I kind of felt like this was her time. You needed to put her on this Raw, and you needed to kind of put her somewhere in that women's title segment. I think it would have worked perfectly. Say, I beat everybody here, from Charlotte, and then, of course, guess what? Bayley would come out. So there's got to be something bigger in store. But I'm Balor Club, I don't think WrestleMania worked out the way that you needed Balor Club yet.
Yeah, I think you would either want to save Guns and Gallows for when you have Finn come up, or for when you have AJ maybe turn heel, or somewhere down the line, Yeah, maybe they feel like they need him in NXT. You're bringing up Enzo Cass, you're bringing up the Vaudevillains, your tag team scene's sort of a little light now. Maybe you send them down there for a little bit. Whatever, plans changed a lot with the rash of injuries and all this stuff. I thought the Finn might have come up today too. That didn't happen, which is fine. He's still the NXT champion. He said he doesn't have a problem being down in NXT for a long period of time. So, everybody wins there.
And Bailey doesn't either.
And I don't think Bailey doesn't either, but I think Bailey on the main roster just made so much more sense today. Like, Summer Rae came out. I'm like, okay, here comes Bailey. She's going to squash Summer. Because Summer's going to talk some mad rap, and then, Bailey comes in and makes her look stupid. And that's, 10 out of 10, right? Somebody call Ty.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They had Sasha come in, squash her, fine. You got to rebuild Sasha now since, after Mania, whatever. The women's segment, Charlotte talks, some mad game here too. And she clearly gets thrown off by the crowd. I don't think I'm sure people were expecting Bailey chants. I don't think they were expecting them as vigorously as they were given. Because the moment she opened her mouth, it was, hey, we want some Bailey. And then, they tried to get the song going, which that was the one I thought might have been a little too far, Because that's a long chant, it's very, it'll get going. And Charlotte even tried to sing along with it, and like, you know what, you're off your game now. It's over. And she salvaged it very well, I thought. So, kudos to Charlotte. But, I think Bailey would have been a nice, interesting feud to jump to, and then you have the rest of the girls figure out what being in a division about women's wrestlers now, figure out what that means. But they went a different way, and I don't have a problem with that. Would I have loved to see Bailey? Absolutely. Was I expecting Bailey? Absolutely. Am I mad? Not really, because if her and Asuka are going to have another go in NXT, I'll be fine with that too.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
What do you think about redoing? We just saw the series of these matches. What do you think about redoing Charlotte and Natalya again, but now we're kind of doing the NXT angle where we involve the families?
What I'm hoping for is that this is a feud that, one, both the WWE and the girls are comfortable with, because Charlotte and Natalya work very well together. And two, I hope it's how they're going to set up the blueprint for how this division is going to work now. It's about wrestling, and nothing says wrestling like flares and hearts. Perfect.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. With Charlotte and the way she's handled things, and especially with that whole thing being in our face of, hey, hearts versus flares, I think it's going to just work to her credit. She's going to have some good matches like they've already had in the past. Sure, we've seen it. But I think they can get better. Mm-hmm. I really do. I think there's still room to grow, and I think that it's really going to benefit Charlotte a lot working with Natalya. And I really feel like this is a few people are going to care about. Mm-hmm. Because anytime the family history is involved, anytime it's the legends involved, people get excited. They keep thinking, oh, we're going to get to see Bret Hart again, or we're going to get some kind of Hart, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's good stuff. I think that's going to be something positive for not only the women's division, but I think it's also going to be positive just with the entire show, because you're going to get more star power. I just think it's a good thing, and I'm not really worried about it. And I want to say Charlotte did an excellent job. Lots of people in that crowd trying to throw her off her game. Did it a little bit, but guess what? Like you said, Paul, overcame it, took care of business, continued like there was no problem. That shows she's grown a whole lot already.
Yeah.
Yeah, going backwards a little bit, I know we kind of talked about this before, but there might be people that are watching, and if you're watching the video feed and you want to ask a question, or you just want to chat in there, that's totally fine. I'm looking at it while, I'm panning the camera over to the guys or whatever. If you want to ask a question, or you just want to make a comment about something that we're talking about, totally do it, and I'll read it on the air. It's to the guys. But we've talked about this a little bit before when the announcement was actually made, sort of by Barrett himself. Larry kind of makes the allusion in his review of a good look in the G1, Mr. Wade Barrett. I don't necessarily think that that's where he winds up. But where do you think, when this happens for him, and it looks like maybe the summer, you see Wade Barrett going?
Oh man, that's a good question. You know,
When I first thought of it, I said this makes sense for TNA.
you know that's you kind of read my mind there. And the only reason I say that is because TNA has lost talent as of late and lost a lot of it. You know, Bobby Roode and Eric Young leaving. They need some guys to come in there and give them some replacements that are strong guys, and he's going to be a strong guy. He really is. He's kind of like having Drew Galloway come in. Drew Galloway looks like $1 million in TNA. I think Wade Barrett would look like $1 million, but WB didn't really do that with him. So I think that's a good spot. I'm not sold that Ring of Honor is a good spot at all. And New Japan, ooh, I don't know. I think TNA is the best fit. Paul, what do you think?
I would not be surprised, first off, if he goes back home. Wrestling is sort of making a comeback in England right now with, you have Insane Championship Wrestling, you have Progress Wrestling, which we got to, if you went to the Evolve shows, you got to see a lot of those guys. I'm probably Rev Pro, of course. You have some promotions getting a lot of steam over there. So if he goes back there, I'm sure he'll do that. I really hope if he follows the same path Drew has, where he's working indies over there, he's working indies here in the States, he's working indies all over the world. Why not? He's certainly a very talented guy. He's a great talker. He's more of a brawler, but Drew has found a way to make his brawling style fit more indie. And I'm sure Wade Can is absolutely up to that challenge too. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does. If he goes to TNA, great. If he finds a way to Ring of Honor, you're seeing like, granted, Donovan Jajak is his size, but he can do a lot of more cruiserweight stuff, and I don't think that's Wade's bag. But if Wade finds his way to an ROH or a Lucha Underground or something, I'm sure he'll find just as much success there as he's meant to find.
Yeah. The thing with Wade Barrett is I think he can kind of match any different kinds of styles. The way that he brawls and the way with the bullhammer move and all that, I think that can sort of work in New Japan. And what Paul's alluding to is he can sort of work, he can get whether he gets a contract with Rev Pro, and then they already have the whole deal with, they're partnered with New Japan and with ROH, so he can kind of get a feeler for, does this style work for me? Can I work against these guys? That kind of thing. Or he can go to TNA, where I think he'll fit in perfectly because you already have Drew Galloway there. You have other kind of international influences there. You have a guy that he'll get more time to sort of be himself and figure himself out. Mm-hmm. And he'll probably be put into that upper mid-card very easily, sort of main event sort of status with TNA. And he'll get to, I think, flourish there. Because you know how TNA is with using former WWE talent, especially ones that are sort of known already. Mm-hmm. He's going to get a prominent position in that spot there.
Yeah, I hope so. I like Wade Barrett, and I think he's a good talent. I just, like WWE does, they have guys that they're not ready to put to the moon, or maybe they've kind of thought, we've gone as far as we can with this guy, and thrown on the back burner, and I don't blame him at all for going.
Do you guys think that there is a sort of NXT invasion coming? Because I think this is the most we've ever seen NXT guys come up all at once in 1 week like that.
What do you think?
Maybe. The interesting part about them not using Shane all that much is that it leaves a lot to be discussed for next week. And I'm sure they had so much they need to get done this week. You had Apollo Crews coming up, you have Enzo and Cass, you have the women's stuff you're trying to reestablish, you have the number one contendership thing, you had, and thankfully they didn't focus a lot on Roman, but the idea of who's the next guy that's going to face him was something big. And, you're setting up all these other feuds elsewhere. So, the kudos there. I mean, the 2 rematches they did, we could have done without, but whatever. But I think I wouldn't say never. There are a lot of guys down there who I think are ready. I think they brought up a good portion of them who were absolutely main roster ready. Maybe not Baron. You could argue about Apollo. Enzo and Cass, though, they were absolutely ready. There's nothing left for them to do.
They've been ready for a long time.
Yeah.
You can do the angle with NXT where there's an invasion, or kind of maybe find a way to pull that off with all the other talent they have, because you got Samoa Joe down there, and you've got even Austin Aries if you want to throw him out there, because he's got so much ability, and not only he's a big veteran.
And Bobby Roode eventually when he...
Bobby Roode.
Yeah, Bobby Roode, exactly. So there's so many guys that you can point your finger at and say, oh, that'd be perfect for an invasion. But is it necessary? I don't know. I think what Paul's saying here about Shane McMahon, and you guys are kind of both alluding to, is it's interesting, but at the same time, like I gotta know what direction they're going in more. Right now, we still don't know it, you know. So it's definitely a thought, though.
You know, one of the sort of bigger things that happened on the show was Zack Ryder, who had his nice WrestleMania moment, whatever, and had his dad there, and they showed the picture of him and Razor Ramon with the IC title, and that got switched. You know, now that he's won the title, they had Miz come out and basically challenging him for the IC title, and then he loses after what was probably, other than the main event, the longest match on the show. Given a lot of time, given time for the crowd to really get involved in it and really get along with Ryder and everything. Then we get the return of Maurice, even, which was a return I don't think many of us thought we'd see. Don't know if she's going to be wrestling or just there with her husband, you know, Miz. Even Zach's dad got involved, too, as well, during the match. What did you guys think of the match? And you have Zack Ryder lose, basically proving to Miz that it was a fluke that he won.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a clean loss by any stretch of imagination. Obviously, the distraction roll up, or the distraction finisher into the roll up. But there were shenanigans involved, and it certainly felt like a setup to a feud. One I'm interested in. I think the Miz can bring a lot to the table. I think Zack Ryder brings a lot to the table. They worked a good match. I think adding puzzle pieces, maybe you keep Zach's dad around, you have Maurice around, who's seen, she was on the Titantron picture for their match on SmackDown. So if she's back, that's great for the women's division because she was a good wrestler and a very effective heel. She got heat like nobody's business. So kudos there, and it keeps them interesting. You're using guys that you haven't used in a while, but certainly have proven their merit before. Obviously, Miz is a former champion. Zack Ryder's also a former U.S. champion. You got guys to work with, and it's nice to see them use them effectively. Because I felt like this was a really great segment the whole way through. It helps that the crowd was on Ryder's side. Obviously, you have guys like us there who have been with Ryder for the long haul, and it worked. When it works, it works. Kudos.
Yeah, you're right. It does work. The one thing I look at this and I was kind of bummed out is the fact that we had Ryder lose the belt in one night, and that's something where I was kind of hoping we have at least a week, because that's a fun journey to ride on, and you feel bad for the guy, but it matches with the story. The story is hard to tell more, I think, if you've got, the Miz having trouble beat Ryder, whereas this, he's like, oh, it took one match, I won your title. And then you can get into that feud harder and stronger. It took me a little time to think of it that way because as soon as Zack Ryder lost, I was like, this is terrible. Here we go again. The guy gets a little prop and then we're going to throw him right back down. But I think that it's more than that. I think we are going to get a good story out of this. I think we're going to have a good matchup here because I do like The Miz. I think The Miz is a good wrestler, and I also like Zack Ryder. So I'm hoping to see more out of this, and this could be something that I think could definitely be a big part of the show coming forward. Yeah,
certainly. They did have one of those dumb remasters we talked about already with the Usos and Dudley Boys, which led to the Enzo and casting, so I guess that's okay, which we already talked about here. The main angle of the show is Roman Reigns coming out eventually. He got absolutely booed to the point where he could not talk for a while, so good luck trying to edit that one, WWE, though. I'm sure they will figure it out how to do so.
According to Larry's report, they were saying JBL was trying to cover, saying it was a weird audience. It's just, whatever. We hate him.
Exactly.
It's whatever. The whole point was that basically Roman made it clear that he was totally okay with accepting any comers. So Jericho comes out first. AJ comes out right after him because they're still involved in a thing. Then Kevin Owens, then Sami Zayn right after him, so you get all of that. And then later on we find out that during this little scuffle that they had here, Sami Zayn apparently gets hurt. Hurting, I don't know if it's his shoulder again or what it is, but he was eventually taken out by Kevin Owens, which makes sense of storyline for Kevin Owens anyway. But if Sami Zayn has to miss some time, that's another big knock on him again, is that he's hurt already and he just came back from another injury. Then you had the main event, which best match on the show by absolutely far. And the return of one Cesaro with tearaway pants and everything. So Cesaro was hugely over during this match. The fans were absolutely on top of chanting for him. He looked great. Everybody looked great here. AJ ends up winning, even though it took a little bit of time for the fans to really kind of warm up to him and chant for him. AJ wins. He is your opponent for Roman Reigns. We do not see Roman Reigns, other than in a brief backstage promo with Shane, again for the rest of the night. We don't even have him do that whole thing where you come out and go, I'm the champion, remember that, whatever. Just AJ basically gets the moment to celebrate that he is the number one contender. Mm-hmm. And also, I think we sort of thought about this, but we didn't. Like, Shane doesn't have a lot to do on this show, but it doesn't feel necessarily totally different from... Did you guys think it felt different from other shows where it's just the Authority or whatever? Just, I guess, to kind of encompass the rest of this Raw, what did you think about those two kind of main points there?
Like we said earlier, I didn't have a problem with the lack of use of Shane. Did it still feel like a Raw? Absolutely. It's always going to feel like a Raw. I think Shane's, no Authority promo, I approve. It didn't... There was always sometimes... Well, I'm going to say always sometimes. They sometimes interrupt the flow of your show. This would have felt very natural. Shane, whenever he came in, you saw Roman, makes a four-way. He's backstage with Apollo Crews before he comes out, and that's really about it. And maybe that's all you need. He's there when you need him. Him and Apollo at least looks like he's responsible for bringing Apollo in, so there's that. And, you address all this on Raw next week with him and Vince, I'm sure, and be like, well, Dad, the show didn't suck, right? You heard the people, they loved it. And, Vince could be like, there's only 1 week, or whatever. Yeah. The main event was glorious. Cesaro coming back was great. He looked a little smaller. Maybe he hasn't had time to hit the gym recently, but it doesn't matter. He looked great. He wrestled great. The crowd was way into him. Everything he was doing. Kevin Owens was over. Y2J was over. As you said, Styles. It took us a little while, but we got there. And the best part was he beats Jericho with the Styles Clash. Totally makes up for Jericho, I think, kicking out the other night.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is a situation where you got a main event that you got all these guys that people love for different reasons. Mm-hmm. KO's for being the best heel. You've got, of course, AJ Styles, the guy that's so great. He's got all this experience behind him. Potential. And then, of course, you have Cesaro, who we've all missed so badly. We were all hoping and prayed that he would show up eventually. Guess what? He was there. You got the crowd behind you right there. And so, and of course, with the fact that Sami Zayn's not there, you need that. Sami Zayn's a very important part, and with him being out and injured, which is very sad. I just got to point that out. Very sad. That guy just can't seem to get away from the injury bug. But then I'm missing one person. AJ, who am I forgetting? Owens. AJ
Jericho.
Owens, I mentioned Cesaro, and then who?
Jericho.
Jericho, Jericho. Jericho's the given. We've all seen Jericho 100 times. He's Jericho no matter what you do. So there's nothing really about that. He's awesome. So you got all these guys with so much ability, guys that are over. AJ's sure in the WWE maybe not as over as you would think, but around the world over immensely. So I think this is all interesting. I think this all matters, and I think it's a great way to really kind of push forward what's going on here. I think also when we kind of go into play with the whole Shane thing, I think we've kind of talked about it a lot earlier. Shane McMahon being a part of this, and then of course with a main event like this, I think it spells what we were talking about with Shane all along, change, and that excites people. So I think all this links up, and it matters, and I'm very happy to see that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that this stacks up as a post-Mania Raw? Because there was obviously times where the crowd had the air sucked out of them by whatever WWE decided to put on this show. There was certainly times where you were kind of like, could they have done the big reveals, and we probably would have made this some huge show, but then you also had the problem of too many people on one show.
Right.
Like, way too many. and then it just gets forgotten into this. Oh my God, we're just debuting NXT guy after NXT guy. So they had to pick and choose what they wanted to do. But then some of these rematches didn't necessarily really excite what's going on. Some of these decisions that they decided to make, they luckily found their groove in that last hour, which is weird because that last hour sometimes is the worst hour.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel as a post-Mania Raw? Are you now excited for what's to come in these next few weeks or whatever?
Yes and no. I mean, I think they opened the show well. I think the story around Shane is still interesting so long as they stay... now that they're past the we need a match for it, you can just get into here's the exposition part. So I thought that was great. The New Day opening also was wonderful. And then that last hour, of course. Anything that was going on around those 4 guys was money. The parts in between the rematches... What made that so entertaining being there live was the rest of the crowd just, the beach ball thing was hilarious. Even parts during the New Day match, whenever just living in the League of Nations, we found ways to entertain ourselves with Wave and, the stupid chants. Like, I mean...
I'm never a big fan of the We Are Awesome chant. I always think that's kind of silly. But...
we're self-serving. Get over it.
Yeah.
The tables match, they're bored when they're chanting for the announced team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And, to me, we come into this with question marks, thinking a lot of answers are going to be taken care of on Monday. Not completely the truth.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we kind of come out of this with more question marks. Is that bad? Not at all. Not at all, because you got to have intrigue. You got to move on. You got to eventually now get to WrestleMania 33, right? Got to have a continuous flow of intrigue and interest, and you've got to get new talent and positions for people to be excited. So, I think they released probably the right amount of talent from NXT. We can have that overabundance like we talked about, like you talked about, Sean. I think, it disappointed me to see that Apollo Crews was there, not because I don't like him, but because I kind of had that inkling Bayley's not going to show up. You already had 2 from NXT. You're going to have 2 more. Oh, no. Well, you can't have more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So, that kind of bummed me out. But at the same point, you got 4 from NXT right now, and they'll grow, and they'll find their places on this roster. But, you had to kind of tame it down a little bit, and they had to find a way to do it. I think they did probably about the right amount. I think that's the max, though. And no more NXT stars if you're going to do it.
Yeah. With this change in kind of attitude that we saw a little bit from Roman Reigns, we still got the boos, but this is the post-WrestleMania crowd. Now, next week, we're kind of going to go back into the regular rhythm of going to different shows, depending on what kind of crowd it is, depending on what we're getting. And there have been arenas where you go to and AJ gets no reaction.
Right.
And so this thought that, that you said, that AJ is going to get automatically cheered, may not necessarily happen. And then you got that dichotomy that Vince runs into again, or just WWE period runs into again, where, oh, well, it's working with Reigns. People are cheering him now.
Mm-hmm.
Blah, blah. It's just... I do worry about that then they all of a sudden, because Styles cannot sustain what Reigns was getting beforehand, they're going to see it as a failure on his part. And, I do worry about that for him. But again, it could be WWE, just they don't give a crap about what your reaction is anymore as long as you get a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you get to that pay-per-view, you get to that match, the fans will decide who they want to cheer and what, who they want to boo and all that. I mean, do you think it matters at all? Or could it hurt AJ if he doesn't get cheered like everybody else has been against Reigns? Or what do you think?
I think that it does matter that he gets cheered to an extent. But, I just have a fear that people are not going to connect with him because of the way that WWE's kind of handling it. I think they really should focus on letting people know who he is. Yeah, sure, you got a long time that you can't show any footage of, but at the same point, you still have some things that you can point out about his career, point out about who he is and what he stands for. And I think those are some things that need to be done before we can expect too much from the fans, especially the very casual fans. But, I don't think that he has to have a giant pop every time he comes out, but I think he does need some reaction. And I feel like at times people don't know him, so they're not sure they should react to him.
I think when you look at this feud, and if we just look at tonight, you have AJ. I don't think AJ did a promo or anything. He just came out.
You did in the backstage.
Yeah, in the backstage. Okay. Which I forgot to mention. All those backstage promos were really good. Sammy's was great. Kevin's was great. I think AJ did well too. It's going to be up to AJ to nail it in these promos. And we know that's not something he's super strong at, but I think he's very effective at least getting his point across. And that's really all you need. And the same for Roman. Roman's promo tonight was short and sweet and to the point, and obviously it's because they knew he's not going to be able to get a word out edgewise. The crowd's not having it here. It's not working. Kudos to them. But they need to follow that same model because that's really all you need to know from Roman. He's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He's just the guy now. He's at top of the food chain, and he's ready for his next guy. Boom, effective. That's the Roman Reigns I like. Short and sweet to the point.
Yep.
You have AJ come out. You talk about, maybe whatever. I'm this big guy. I am the biggest challenge you're gonna have, and I'm gonna bring it. And Roman's like, cool, do it. And that's all you need. And if you leave it that simple, I think people are gonna get on board.
All right.
I agree. Less is more, for sure.
Yeah.
We've talked about plenty of times.
With both of them.
Yeah, yes, I agree totally. Because let's think about that. We point out about Roman. Sometimes he gets nervous, or sometimes he just doesn't come across very well. AJ Styles, as much as you may think he's a fan favorite, there's people that are not fans of the Southern accent. They can't stand. So I think that's something they'll eventually have to adjust to, especially with the way AJ is. But, I just think you're right. Short and sweet is the method here for both these guys. It's going to get them over more than them sitting there having to tell a story. Vocally, at least. So, but, like I said, both great talents. So,
I think that pretty much covers us talking about everything that was sort of important from Raw. There might have been a few other little ditties here that we didn't touch on, I think. But every major thing was sort of covered. It is still one Raw in what is now the new year for WWE. It's not the new year as far as, when we're looking at awards and all that kind of stuff, but WWE's year basically ends at WrestleMania and starts again at the Raw after. So now we've kind of got to see how it goes into Payback in about a month from now. And all these weeks of shows will be heading into that. So now we kind of just need to get a rating here. And I think overall, there was a part of this show that was certainly down. It was not, when you think about, usually those Raws after Mania, they're hitting on every segment. We're excited about everything that's happening. And there were certainly things that you're kind of like, oh yeah, we're seeing this guy. Oh, we're seeing this guy. Apollo Crews, we're seeing Enzo and Cass. We're seeing Cesaro come back. We had that big, great main event or whatever. I'm going to say a 6 for me. It was not a bad show. In its entirety, there was bad parts, but they certainly picked it up towards the end, and they had a nice opening part as well. So that's what I think. But what do you guys think on a rating here?
Go for it.
I'm going to go with 6. And the reason I'm going to 6 is because I usually vote 7 for average. And this was, kind of average, but I think there were some things in here that kind of let you down. I think when you got a crowd like the crowd that was there tonight, and they get quiet, and there's not things going on to really motivate them at times, that's nerve-wracking for me. It scares me, and it says there's something going wrong. And so I think that's what kind of tears it down for me a little here. I think there's some other decisions that were not in my favor. But, we got a great main event. You got Enzo and Kaz. Both are highlights, but there's not enough highlights. I'm really kind of rating this very hard because of the fact that I expect so much out of this Monday Night Raw. That's why I'm doing it this way. I think if we're talking a normal week, a normal Raw, maybe it gets a 7 for me. But that's why I'm going to go with 6 with it this one.
I enjoyed myself a great deal more tonight than I did yesterday. WrestleMania was fun, but But tonight, it's much more intimate. It's everything's closer. The crowd, I think, is much more rabid. They're ready to see what's going to change. They didn't deliver on a lot of things throughout the entire show. Both the rematches that we got were boring, and we had to entertain ourselves. Some stuff probably could have been executed better. Whatever. I still think, all those problems aside, I don't think it's... I'm going to give it 6.5. I was originally thinking 7. Thinking about it on the train ride home and coming here, though, I think 6.5 I think is fair. Just as good as WrestleMania, I think, card build-wise and all that fun stuff. You have a lot more that I think people are going to care about in the future. But there's nothing like super huge on this show. The 4-way was great. The NXT call-ups were great. All that fun. Even the New Day.
So, do you take anything from the fact that there was no John Cena, no Randy Orton, not even a tease of possible Randy Orton? There was a possibility earlier in the day spoken about Seth Rollins appearing. Seth Rollins. We already talked about why Bayley may not be there and Finn and all that, but some of those we heard Rock went home. Brock is having his time off or whatever.
There's no Dean.
No. Dean. Well, Dean's selling injuries,
right? And that's completely fine. But there's no mention of Dean other than the video package.
No Triple H, no Stephanie. A lot of the big stars not there, or what you would consider your traditional mainstays of a Raw not there.
Right.
Do you think this was just the whole this is Shane's vision of Raw with a focus on younger talent? Let's see what the rating is, and we go from there, or do you think it's just it's all about resting them?
So the guys that are hurt, there should be no rush to bring them back. When half of your roster is gone, you tell everybody to take as much time as they need, and you work on what you got here. And hopefully, whenever those guys come back, you got some fresh matchups because these new guys will come up, and they're at a point where you feel like they could feasibly work with guys like Cena, guys like Orton, guys like your Seth Rollins. If they are doing it because of that, then great. If they're doing it because they want to see what these other guys got, that's great too. If they're doing it because they know the crowd they're in front of, and they know that these people they're putting out there are going to do well, then that's smart. There's nothing wrong with that. So, whatever the reason might have been, I can't find a lot of reason to fault them. They're in a bind still. They have a lot of guys we care about. They're not built yet. And if that's what tonight was about, then great. If they're doing it because they know the crowd they're in front of, then they're being smart, and that's something you don't always see. So good on them.
Gary, do you think that we might possibly see our ratings dip a little bit without? It's a lot of focus on this newer crop of guys that's been recently, and then NXT people and all that stuff. Not necessarily the indie darlings and all that kind of thing. You think this is possibly Vince trying to make a statement of, hey, this is why I have to use the part-timers, this is why I have to use the Cenas and the Ortons and the whatever, so that if the rating slams, do you see that changing or anything?
I think there will be a dip, and the reason I say that is because of the fact that we did have the NCAA basketball championship game on the same night as this Monday Night Raw.
It was a very, very entertaining game. It came down to the last second.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, it did. And here's the thing. You pointed out, Sean, a lot of young talent, a lot of no names that, people don't really, maybe pay attention to or have any clue at all who they are. So you're just kind of limiting yourself to a certain audience, and that audience is the people that do know NXT, do love these people. Maybe another audience who's okay and kind of understands who they are. But you've got a big, vast audience who's very casual, and they're not going to be all excited about seeing some of the things we saw tonight. Just because the names aren't there, like you said, it's all NXT guys. So I do feel...
Especially after you see Cena on the WrestleMania, he doesn't show up on the Raw after. Kind of
Exactly. So there's a lot of factors here, but I hate to see that because, Sean had leaned over and we were kind of talking about this at this Monday Night Raw, and he brought up the good point of, they're going to be pointing fingers at this young talent if that is the dip, and I think that's true, Sean. I think you're right on that.
Do you think they could be testing the waters for a brand extension? Like, these are your guys that could be on SmackDown. Will they watch?
If these are the guys that are on SmackDown, I'm watching SmackDown. There wasn't a person on this show I didn't actively dislike. There wasn't authority promos taking up time. There wasn't a lot of meaningless, frivolous stuff. Everything meant something tonight. Mm-hmm. Why can't every Raw be like that? I mean, even if your big stars aren't here, it was a much better structured Raw. Yeah, there was stuff that wasn't all that well attended to. Mm-hmm. That happens. Everything can't be perfect, but it was a well attended show.
Yeah, it was.
All right.
It was a blast too. So
yeah,
I mean that's the whole point of us, to be entertained and have fun. And WB did a great job tonight entertaining us. It may not have been our favor in booking. It may not have been in our favor of who we would have chose to come out. But you know what? I had fun, and that's all that matters.
Exactly.
And WWE does a great job with that, and we commend them on that. So. But yeah, guys, that's Monday Night Raw. We appreciate everybody for coming and checking us out tonight. We wanted to make sure you guys got an episode right away about Monday Night Raw. So we didn't wait until Thursday. We made sure we made this a special. That was the plan all along.
Especially because we're not doing another show till Friday night.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So we'll be coming to you a day later. And it won't matter because guess what? All the shows that we're really going to be talking about on that show will be either Tuesday or Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's a big deal if you wait till Saturday to hear us on demand. So that's definitely going to be worth it.
I will say, aside from the regular shows we always do, the Lucha Undergrounds and the NXTs and whatever, we will have an Invasion Attack preview because that pay-per-view will be on Sunday. And then we will be doing the review of Invasion Attacks on Sunday night. So, and I apologize, we have been behind on the new. They have had a bunch of new stuff on New Japan World that you can check out. But honestly, with all the WrestleMania stuff going on, and I only have my phone on me, I don't have time to watch all these shows and then come here by myself to be like, hey Gary, move out of the way.
Yeah.
What are you doing? So I can get a hold of Tom and like stop Paul what he's doing, and he's got other things to do. So if you're that New Japan contingent, we have not been disregarding you or anything. It's just this WrestleMania, all this stuff. It kind of took precedent. So we'll be back on track, even though we've missed all the shows that came previous. We will be back on track on the Friday night show and on Sunday night with getting back into that New Japan flow. So
definitely, and we're excited about getting back to our routine in a way because we love doing all these shows. This has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it, but sometimes you get out of your routine and you're like a little lost. And
the people that do this like 2 or 3 times a week, I commend you.
Yeah.
This is hard to do, to go and make that commitment and say, and we do that with other shows, obviously, football show and whatever, but to make that commitment and say, okay, 3-4 times a week we're going to do this wrestling show, and always get, whether it's get home at 2 or 3 in the morning every time, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It definitely is. But we're blessed to be able to do it, and this has been a great time. And hopefully this isn't the last WrestleMania we're doing this live again, because this is so much fun, and I really appreciate you guys working with me. And I think as a group we've done a great job and had a lot of fun talking about all these different events we've been a part of, and we've got a lot of memories now, guys. And so sadly this is the conclusion of our WrestleMania weekend, but like I said, there'll be a future. Once again, don't forget Friday night. You don't want to miss it. That is going to be live. You're going to hear us talking about all those other shows: Lucha Underground, TNA Impact, Ring of Honor, and of course, like Sean said, Invasion Attack. So those are some big things that we're going to have coming up your way this next Friday night, Saturday on demand. And of course, like I mentioned before, make sure you go check out any of the other shows that we had. We've had 3 extras now. One was NXT TakeOver Dallas, one was WrestleMania 32, and the other was tonight's show, Monday Night Raw following WrestleMania 32. So lots of great content for you guys. There's some added bonus stuff in those episodes that you don't want to miss. And of course, don't forget to go rate and review. We really appreciate everybody who's already done that. If you have not done that, please go do that for us. It just kind of does us a favor, so we really appreciate that. And don't forget to go to subscribe to the W2M network. That's a great place if you're not already subscribed. Thank you to our partners at LastWordOnSports.com and 411mania.com. We love both those sites, and we appreciate all that they do for us. Besides that, guys, I guess we're out of here. So just wanted everybody to know, always remember, if you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.